Thanks for still staying tuned. The program is still New Day, in case you're just tuning in. And this segment, we'll be looking at the climate change summit that is coming up in Abuja very, very soon. It's coming up on Friday the 7th. And then we have David Terungwa. I hope I got that right. He is the executive director of GIFSEP and a co-convener of Abuja Climate Summit. David, thanks for finding our time to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, what's the summit all about? We've been hearing about, climate change over the years, and to some people, the climate is still the same thing. We have rain, we have fall, we have winter, we have summer.
Yeah, we have rain, we have sun, yeah. Sun to dry our clothes,
we have sun
enough
to dry,
rain.
yes, and sometimes breeze, cold, everything is normal. What's the change there?
Yes, there is change, significant change in the climate. Just this year, as you observe, there was no August break. Usually in Nigeria, around August, there is maybe a 1 or 2 week break from rainfall. That didn't happen this year. If you speak to a very elderly person in your village or elsewhere about the status of the climate, he will tell you that the climate is really changing. This year, again, we noticed that the rainfalls came in very, very late, and now it is so much. Some places are already flooded, and then there's prediction of even more flood in some other states. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's across the world. And those days we used to watch on TV, on CNN, to see how other countries were being flooded, and all. So the climate is really changing. Two things brings in extreme weather conditions. So when it's very hot, it is extremely hot. Like this year, around March, April, it was so hot. And then when it's the dry season period also, you notice that it is very severe. So the climate is changing, and the truth is that it is the #1 problem the world is facing today. Unfortunately, politics have taken over, so everybody talks more about politics, but the truth is that climate change affects us all. It affects the way we live, it affects even our health, it affects even the food production that we depend on and all that.
Yeah, is this man-made or is
Yes, climate change is both man-made and natural causes, but the man-made causes have actually overshadowed the natural causes. Natural causes have to do with volcanic eruptions and all that, but the man-made causes principally is the emissions of carbon. Now, if from primary school we're taught that you breathe in oxygen and then you breathe out carbon dioxide. Now, the plants take in this carbon dioxide and give us back the oxygen that we breathe. So, but right now, you ask yourself, how many trees do we have, even around the world, around the community, around your houses, to give you back that oxygen? Now, this carbon dioxide is not just from our breath alone, it comes from the cars, from the motorcycle, from our generators, and from industries. So, the truth is that humans are the major causes of greenhouse gas emissions leading to climate change, and there is need for us to take action.
Yeah, but we've had the cars, before now. We've had the generators before this time. We've had all of the emissions coming out from some of these machines before now, and the climate was still, favorable to humans. So why now that we're having, all of these adverse effects?
It takes the accumulation of these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. For example, the carbon dioxide that remains in the atmosphere. It does not decay. All right? So you need the trees to absorb this carbon dioxide. But those trees are no longer there. In Nigeria today, we've lost our forest cover by almost 70%. It's only in Cross River State where you still have some forests that you say this is a typical forest that can act as carbon sink to absorb all the carbons and of course our rivers also absorb the carbon. So, but over the years, from industrial times, not just in Nigeria, we're talking of world over, emissions have increased, and then the accumulation is the effect of what we are feeling today.
Okay, I must comment. First of all, talking about Cross River States. The reason why that happens because there was a time in Cross River States where they had cut a tree, plant a tree going on, which really went a long way because even along the roads you see trees. Aside the natural forest we have in Buki and some other few local government areas in Cross River States. So now this summit, what are we looking forward to during the summit? What impact? What special message? What way would you be able to relate through the summit to the layman talking about climate change, gas emission, and avoiding deforestation?
So the truth is that for governments to take any issue seriously, the citizens must come together and rise to say we want actions. And this summit is bringing together all the stakeholders, civil societies, religious leaders, traditional leaders, and everyone together to discuss about this issue. It's affecting us in a way we don't know that it is. For example, we all know that desertification is fast eating into the country. We see the crisis between the farmers and the herdsmen. We see the flooding effect. We see crop failures. We see disease outbreak and all that. It affects us directly. So we need to take actions that will mitigate these issues and will help us adapt. The truth is that we in Nigeria and Africa, we are not the main cause of this problem, but we are the most affected. So we don't have a choice than to be part of the solution. And being part of the solution means that we need to begin to talk about these issues, just like we did with HIV, we did with Ebola and all that. So it becomes a national issue. Yes, the government have done a few things. For example, we have ratified the Paris Agreement. The president have signed it. Is now the nationally determined contributions that our country with other countries worldwide have signed this agreement to say we are going to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to know what has the government done in this respect since it was signed about a year ago and all that.
All right, as far as the summit is concerned, I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried in the sense that I know a lot of Nigerians and those watching us across the globe could also be worried because we've seen series of summits, series of conferences, series of meetings, series of MOUs, series of all of the series you can think about as it relates to not just climate change. We've seen on security, we've seen on economy, we've seen on businesses, we've seen on stock broking and stock exchange and all of that. But yet, you see that the effect of most of the summits are not being felt. And some school of thought are of the view that maybe the organizers are just out there to make some cash, by getting those people registered and then get a few good orators, just come, prepare papers, deliver it in 5-10 minutes, and off you go. What are you going to do differently to change that?
The reason is simply that the people are not always carried along. Okay. Any solution in this world that can work or has worked perfectly, it is a bottom-up approach. Now, we've been discussing climate issues and many other issues in this country. It's usually at the government level, and then the people are usually not carried along. So, but in this summit, it is the people that are coming together. It's just a first step to say, okay, we have this issue. What do we do? Good enough. It is an electioneering year. I'll tell you that we did a little background of all the party manifestos in this country, and we discovered that no party in their manifestos have that word, climate change, or even renewable energy. That is one of the most solution that we are talking about. So if the people who are the electorate begin to talk about this issue and how it affects them, then you should expect that it becomes a campaign issue, and we expect that the political parties and the politicians, who I believe this time around will begin to listen to the electorate and then take these issues seriously. So it's not just about coming to talk and going, but it's about people, individuals taking practical actions themselves. For example, I will just talk about trees. How many trees do you have in your home? I mean, can you begin to plant some trees around your home? Okay. Can you begin to reduce your carbon footprint? By carbon footprint, I mean those activities that you do that emit more carbon. For example, I need to walk from here to the junction. I don't need to drive, but some people would prefer to drive when you can easily walk, which is good for yourself and for your health. How about food waste that we do? We go for occasions, we see what people do, collect a lot of food, and you don't eat it. And when you think of the carbon emissions that went into the production of that food, then you will not waste it. So these are some of the things that we as individuals practically will begin to take actions, not just waiting for the government alone. Yeah.
You talked about people coming. Sorry, Lillian, a follow-up to that. You talked about people coming, and you made mention of everybody. So who and who are we expecting? If I should come to this summit, am I going to see a very local farmer from maybe Dapchi or Dambua or from Goza, attending that summit with probably, mere looking at him, I'll know that, oh, this guy is a farmer, because these are people that can, easily go out there and start planting trees in as much as they have a handful of information that this thing that you're doing is bad and all of that. Because they go into the bushes and bring down trees without replacing them. So am I going to see someone from that axis who is, a peasant farmer? I know we have some highbrow mechanized farmers and all of that, people who are, into large scale of farming like Obasanjo and all of that. I don't expect to see them. I expect to see people from, the downtrodden. Are we expecting such people there?
Yes. First of all, this summit is for people within Abuja. We're not bringing people from other states.
No, I just cited that. But even in Abuja, we have peasant farmers.
Course,
yes, I just cited
the number one people on our list are the local farmers, because the farmers are even the most affected by the effect of climate change. Remember that most of our farmers depend on rain-fed agriculture. They sit down and imagine that, okay, the rains will start tomorrow, and then it doesn't start, and then they go and plant, and then all their crops die off, and sometimes flood comes and destroy everything they have invested, all their lifestyle, and this cycle of poverty continues. So the farmers are the most affected by these issues, and they are the number one people that we've invited. We've also invited religious leaders. We are a religious nation. For example, the Catholic Church, the Pope is promoting renewable energy and the need for us to look after our environment. Islam also have some things to do with how we can relate with our environment and all that. And then lastly, we are bringing also these same political parties that we're talking about to tell us what plans they have for these issues, because this is the number one problem the world is facing today. And somehow in this clan, it is not brought to the bear. It is usually, politics and, of course, insecurity. But if you even think of the insecurity, the number one driving force to this insecurity has to do with climate change.
Right.
Okay, now he spoke about issues that should be addressed and the caliber of people that will be there. Now, you've also spoken about trees, planting, and all of that. Now, let's look at gas flaring. Now. We have the issue of soot in River State. We have the issue of illegal refinery in most oil-producing states in Nigeria. Now, like it or not, in as much as we're not we're like one of the oil-producing countries, and gas flaring is something that we can't actually evade. So, would this summit actually look at gas flaring and way to curb the illegal refineries, what partnership would you have with government to look at gas flaring and carbon? Because that should be one of the major carbon emission we have, aside cars. You mentioned cars and all those are minor.
Yes.
That's a major gas carbon emission we have.
Yes, thank you very much. One of the first presentations we'll be having at the summit is to listen from the Ministry of Environment on how far we have implemented our NDC. That's the agreement we signed that will begin to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Good enough, the NNPC, the Ministry of Petroleum, just this last month said that they will stop gas flaring in Nigeria by 2020. That's just 2 years from now.
How possible is it?
Well, we'll be watching, and that is why we want every Nigerian to be part of this and understand that if we don't demand for change, there will be no change. For a very long time, we've been flaring gas in Nigeria. That is money being wasted, destroying the environment. The environmental impact and health impact of gas flaring cannot be quantified. Nigeria is the only country in the world that still flare gas. It shouldn't be. And so we're happy that the government is saying by 2020, gas flaring will be a thing of the past. We'll hold them to their word. So the government telling us how well they have implemented the Paris Agreement, then we'll look at it and go back to the ground and see if what they are saying is true.
Okay, now he spoke about the caliber of people that would come for the summit now.
Yes.
I always look at, how about those that can come? What outreach mechanism do you have? Like he mentioned a farmer in that chain, you said this is for just Abuja.
Yes.
Even if you organize it somewhere there and then that farmer, what outreach mechanism do you have to enlighten those people? What level of, would I say publicity or outreach mechanism rather, do you have to reach out to such people, educate them, enlighten them? You could tell a farmer, okay, plant one tree. A farmer wouldn't even want to plant it because the roots will affect his crops. Let's be honest. So what outreach mechanism do you have for a regular farmer in Benue State? How do you intend to enlighten and educate them on afforestation and deforestation?
Like I said, this is just the beginning. And being here in your studio today, talking about these issues, is also just the beginning. The media also have a lot of work to do, not just TV, the radio, and other media have a lot to do in this regard. So we are just, this summit in Abuja is just a starting point, and then going forward, we'll reach out to the different organizations, farmers groups, the herders group in different parts of the country. So we'll also use the media to campaign. Of course, there are a lot of work, most especially by development partners on this issue. But sometimes they are not being promoted. I know about the GIFSEP grant, I know IFAD, I know Oxfam. They are all working in different parts of the country. So we just need to sustain this effort, but more importantly, for the government to take this issue as a very serious and critical issue. So this is just a starting point. You will see me often.
But don't you think waiting for the government is not actually going to bring a solution? Because we've always seen us waiting for the government and waiting for the government. Don't you think outreach to individuals itself is going to actually make more of a positive impact?
Of course, we are not waiting for the government. This conference has nothing to do with the government.
You just made several mentions of the
we
government.
want the government to put these issues in the front burner. That's why we are coming together as a people to demand that, look, this is what affects us more. This has to be taken into more budgetary provisions and more policies, more laws to tackle this issue. But more importantly, ourselves, we need to take actions. The little way we can. In Kaduna, the flooding that took place in Kaduna, for example, could have been avoided if people themselves decided not to go and build houses in the floodplain, for goodness sake. You know, so that is not government. It is ourselves that decided we will do that. You know, so but the truth is that this issue has a lot to do with even the economy of the country. You know, the land we have is not increasing. From independence, we were like 45 million. Right now, we are how many? We are about 200 million, they say. Okay? The same size of land, the same water, the same everything. So we cannot continue to develop the way we are. We must develop sustainably. This is what we are talking about.
Okay.
All right. My next engagement with you will be very simple. How would you have expected Nigeria to have handled, the global warming thing, before now? Because, like you rightly made mention of, flooding and all of that, most of them are man-made. How would you have expected, successive government to have handled, the global warming issue before this time? And if they had handled it, apparently well, are we going to find ourselves where we are as we speak?
Well, I would say that planning is one of the major challenges that we have in the country, and environmental governance in general is lacking.
But we have the Minister of Environment.
Oh, well, he's just one person, a minister. Now, the truth is that environmental governance should not even be at the federal level. The minister is here in Abuja. Where the land is where? It's in the states, right? And you would, like you mentioned, in most states, they don't even understand what these issues are. For example, you can just walk into the bush and cut down a tree now, and you go, and nobody will hold you, will ask you questions. Okay? Of course, our people depend largely on fuel wood for their energy. So they will tell you, what do you want me to use and cook, which is another issue that it's a big topic for discussion for another day. So, but the truth is that we need environmental governance, not just at the federal level, but at the state. The states have a lot. This forest, they are where? They're in the states. The federal will do all the policies and all that. So, but we need these laws, and they should be well implemented. The last time I checked, the penalty for someone felling a tree is maybe like 10 naira or so. So you can go ahead and cut many trees and keep paying 10 naira and all that.
Okay, my colleague just talked about gas flaring. Should we have allowed that in the first place?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. These are some of the issues that the country that has to do with planning and also policy enforcement are the issue. It is a big disappointment that we are the only country in the world that is still flaring gas. That is money being wasted, like I mentioned. And now we are still complaining we don't have gas, right? And then our farmers are failing, not just farmers, even in Abuja here, people are using fuel wood, they cannot afford the same gas to use, and then it is being flared. And it's a major contributor to climate change. It shouldn't be happening, So we as a people need to take our laws more seriously, have the interests of the people at heart, not just making laws for some few individuals to be paying. Because for the oil companies, it was more easy for them to pay the fines and flare the gas. And that's why they continued. So, but if we come up with very stringent laws, they will stop it, and it should be stopped.
Okay, I'm going to ask you two questions in one as we prepare to wrap up.
Okay.
Number one, still talking about the environment. Who is your ideal Minister of Environment? What should be his pedigree? That's one. And number two, if gas flaring should continue. Okay, let me not take it back to gas flaring. This summit that you're about to have on Friday,
Yes.
what should Nigerians be expecting?
And one last
Number
one
three.
now, and number three now. You made mention of, I really love People's TV. We reach out to the regular masses. Now, you made mention of fuel wood. Now, before you go, can you give us? You said it's another topic for another day, but briefly, please give my audience another option for food. For those that, let's be realistic. The woman frying akara by the road, what other option does she have for firewood?
Okay, so we are promoting renewable energy, and we're saying that renewable energy is the solution to climate change because all the gas emissions come largely from emission of carbon. Of course, burning of wood is also part of it. Yes, there are new technologies that can be used for cooking. So the general one we know is the gas. It is more expensive. In quote,
Not in quote. It's
Not in
expensive.
quote.
I would say
Expensive is
I
expensive.
would say it's expensive in quote because sometimes if you look at the cost over time of you buying fuel wood, maybe for a month or 2 months, and then you estimate the cost of the environment and the cost of you using it for.
Sorry,
You
can
discover
I cut
that.
it short?
No.
Can I cut it
Hold
short?
on a
Lilian
second.
is not going to
Well,
agree
hold
with
on,
you.
I'm not
hold
going to
on
agree
a
with you.
second.
I'm a woman.
Hold on a
Well,
second.
no, I have to cut it short. Then I'll firewood now.
Yes.
At least I know for a while in my life I was very good at frying gari. Congratulations to me. So we would buy a bundle. Highest 50 naira, 100 naira. And then you're telling me I have to look at the cost of that. If I'm going to buy a gas, my gas goes for way more than that. To fill my gas tank is 1.5, and then it's not probably going to last me for a month. So you need to give me a cheaper option.
I have not landed. Thank you
Okay.
for mentioning Gary, for example.
Yeah.
Now, our forefathers, or even the women in the village, when they are frying Gary, there's a way they build
Of course.
the
A mud,
A
a mud stand.
Right.
road using the mud stand.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they do that?
For heat.
It's for heat, to conserve heat. And so what actually cooks your food is not the firewood, it is the heat, right? So now, why those women use that mud is because they want to maximize, if they put 3 sticks of firewood, it should give them that heat that would fry their gari. Okay? So now, this technology is very simple and it's very local. Build your fireplace with mud.
Okay.
So instead of using 10 firewood, you can use 3 and it will give you the same result. These are some of the little things that we can do. I know that some other organizations are teaching farmers how to do this. I know there are many other organizations doing this right now. So, but I know with time it will go far. We have the solar cookers. Of course, the challenge with the solar cookers, the farmers will tell you, we cannot use it to cook pounded yam because it's a little bit slow, but you can use it to cook your other noodles and all that, you know. So that is why, if you remember, the government came up with an initiative on renewable energy stove, which corruption just killed it. Those stoves they were somewhere at the National Stadium or something. These are very good initiatives, you know, but unfortunately sometimes the very good ones don't get to see the light of the day. So the local farmer already have some of the solutions to these issues, like agroforestry. They know that they need to plant some trees, they need to space the trees, you know. Not just any tree. If, for example, they plant their mango, their oranges, they are getting double benefit from the crops and also selling the oranges and from the fruits, and also food security for them. All right? So the local farmer already knows this. But somehow, because of the pressure on the land and all that, they are letting some of these things go. And these are the problems.
Yeah, that's for renewable energy.
Yes.
Then who is your ideal Minister of Environment?
This is a very big question for me to answer. But I personally, I believe that a minister is just an individual. You have different departments and units within that ministry. You have NESRA, you have different DGs or different parastatals under that ministry. So he should be able to coordinate those agencies properly, and also work very closely with the legislators to review some of our environmental laws. They are gone. They are, because most of them were done long ago, you know, and then also push for the enforcement of these laws, and you know, stand by it. Like when we had the issue of the superhighway in Cross River, where the governor wanted to clear major part of the only forest we still have in Nigeria for a superhighway. You know, the minister also stood up, even though he's part of the government, and all the noise made by the civil society worked. So we need a minister that is very proactive, of course, not just attending international conferences and meetings, but coming back to ensure that this fits back to the people. Yeah.
So what do you expect from your summit? Are we still going to see, you know, the resolutions or the agreements coming from your summits going down the drain like other summits, or what exactly are you going to do differently to ensuring that some of your resolutions are pushed forward for a better environment?
Yes, like I said, the citizens are the ones to drive this summit. It is not just a talk show as it used to be. And so if at the end of the day we bring climate change to the front burner as a campaign issue, we will be very happy. And then we will also be very happy that our local farmers who know that climate change is happening but don't even understand what exactly it is, understand this and take back the message to their people, and know that will be the major outcome. But for us really is that we know that as a country we are fossil fuel dependent, but it is time for us to embrace renewable energy and leave this oil in the ground. We've had it over the years, but what has been the result? Go to the Niger Delta and see the destruction
It has cost.
it has caused. So leave this oil in the ground. Let's embrace renewable energy. We have a major danger ahead of us as a country, and if we don't take steps now to join the rest of the world, we will be in serious problem. You know about electric cars all over the world. Most of the countries that buy our oil, India, for example, they are converting all their cars by 2025 to electric cars. So who will be buying our oil?
And solar.
And so everybody is going renewable. And we also, as a country, must not be left behind.
Well, thank you very much, David. Terungwa, I hope I got that right.
Terungwa.
Terungwa.
Yes.
All right. He's from the Benue extraction. Thank you very much for finding our time to be here today.
Thank you very
And
much
then
for
thank
coming.
you for enlightening our viewers all over the world. You know, we're being watched in over 86 countries of the world and cutting across Nigeria. Thank you so very much for coming today.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back after the summit to tell you how we felt.
Oh, yeah, we really can't wait for the feedback.
We'll so much welcome you back.
Thank you so
All right.
much.